This is KLEAN Radio.
Welcome everybody out there to KLEAN Radio, and I want to thank Rand DeWitt for the best KLEAN Radio show opening ever, and welcome everybody out there listening to KLEAN Radio. Our hashtag tonight is You're Not Alone. Andrew Spanswick, co-host and owner and operator of KLEAN Treatment Centers, back in studio.
Yeah, welcome Judah. How are you doing?
I am great, and we have a great show for everybody out there. Go to facebook.com/KLEAN Radio. One of the things that we wanted to post tonight is some helpful tips for
helpful tints?
Tips.
Oh,
let's be very careful, guys. Let's helpful hints and tips for people that are newly getting sober. So go and also go to @KLEAN Radio. One of the things I wanted to talk about quickly, because our hashtag is You Are Not Alone, and I've shared this with you many times, Andrew, but years ago, I'm a huge New York Giant fan. When I was 22 years old and I had just gotten sober, the Giants signed a player by the name of Kerry Collins. Kerry Collins was one of the best quarterbacks around, but he had a little problem known as alcoholism. And when he got to the Giants, he wasn't allowed to drive to the games by himself, and he had made a mess of his life. So me and my friend Smilin' Bill, everybody in New York has a nickname like that, used to go to
sure thing, Chief.
Yeah, used to go to every Giant game and wait outside after the players came out, because we couldn't. We had this thing of like, you're not alone, in the sense that we couldn't imagine what it was like. You have this huge New York Giant win, and after the game, everybody's celebrating, everybody's drinking. Kerry Collins, what do you do? And me and Smile Bill, every week after the Giant games, we'd wait outside for him to come. The first week, we were a little nervous. He'd think we were crazy. And by the 16th week of the season, he would actually stop by and talk to us. And he knew us at that point. And I couldn't imagine what that feeling was, that so many people are out there right now that are driving around, that are listening at home, whether it's a mother, whether it's a son, whether it's the person going through the addiction, that feels so isolated by the disease of addiction and alcoholism. And that's why our hashtag tonight is You Are Not Alone, and which brings us to the story of Nashville's Rich Clune, who opened up this week about his alcoholism.
Yep.
And you're a huge hockey fan. Both of us are huge hockey fans, and I love saying that because it's the only sport you love, Andrew.
That's not true.
What's the other one?
Table tennis.
Table tennis and
Figure skating.
well,
actually, I got to tell my figures. So my mother, right? I played hockey growing up, and I was about, I guess, 8 or 9.
Right.
And talk about shame things, right? So, so my mom takes me for hockey practice, and I take my skate guards off, right? Because you're young, so you get all dressed up before you go, right?
Right.
So I take my skate guards off, and I go out the door, and I get on, and figure skating was still going on. My mom hadn't changed the clocks.
Heaven forbid.
Well, you know, the clocks had changed. And so I went out like all ready to go in my hockey stuff, and all the figure skaters were out there. And they were like, "Oh, you're so cute. Look at you." And I was just like, ugh. So I felt bad for years over that.
And then, but
That's not so horrible.
the amazing thing is actually, Andrew is actually an amazing ice skater, but he has an affliction known as colder to carry that doesn't allow him, because he goes from a shift from cold to heat and heat to cold.
I get an anaphylactic reaction.
And so otherwise, you never know.
Really bad chicken pox when I was 12, and it screwed up my histamine system. Yeah, it's kind of horrible.
And that's Andrew Spanswick. And if you just
not Judah Friedman,
definitely
Judah
not.
Friedman has other afflictions.
Yes, but not that one. And if you
With figure skating.
Yeah, and if you just tuned in, you are listening to KLEAN Radio. Our hashtag tonight is You Are Not Alone. So give us a call. The number is 800-222-5222. That's 800-222-5222. You are not alone. If you're out there driving and you feel it, if you're isolating and you're at home, give us a call. You don't have to feel that way anymore. And I was talking about Rich Clune, but let's go to an even bigger ring. Okay, I want to say this is one of the coolest nights in KLEAN Radio history. We have somebody that's an Olympian. We have an Olympian on KLEAN Radio tonight,
right? And not for table tennis.
And not for table tennis. We have an Olympian. She's a pair skater with her partner Randy Gardner. She's the 1979 world champion and 5-time U.S. national champion.
Only 5 times?
They qualified for the 76 and the most important Olympics in U.S. history, the 1980 U.S. Winter Olympics. With that, let's give a big KLEAN Radio welcome to Ty Babylonia.
Hey.
But that was it.
It's the best things to get.
After our opening
Calm
of
down,
excitement,
everyone.
we were so
I'll
excited.
talk for myself.
We were
I'm proud of that.
We were so excited before the
Yay
show.
me.
Yeah, we were so excited before the show. It's like by the time we said it, we were like, okay.
Yeah.
I know it's old hat.
Yeah, we
No, but
burned it
thank
out.
you.
We burned out all our excitement earlier today, and now it's just like a.
You know, it's interesting. When you say, all of our credits, and we were 2-time Olympians, and Lake Placid was huge, even though we didn't compete due to my partner's injury. It's it seems so far and long ago, and with my partner, with Randy Gardner, I really have to separate those two. Like Ty and Randy are two separate. It's a whole separate, whatever you want to call it. And then there's Ty, Scout's mother. So it's
Well, my mom remembers.
It's interesting.
She goes, I can't believe it's going to be on tonight. She was very excited.
Oh, say hi to your mom. Hi, Mom.
Hey.
If you're listening.
She actually,
Thank you.
trust me, she's listening.
Thank you, Mom.
So let's talk a little bit. You're sober now almost 6 years,
Almost 6 years.
which is amazing.
Yes, it's great. Thank you.
What was life like? I mean,
What is it like now?
No, what was it like?
Oh,
I mean,
before.
here's the thing. We talk about athletes a lot on this show, and the stress on an athlete, right? For many years, everything was just probably done for you. In a sense,
Absolutely, very
right?
good.
The skates were there, the uniform was there.
All we had to do was perform.
And what do you do when it's over?
When the performing's over?
Or when the career, when the Olympics are over. I mean,
Well, there was no over for us. After the Olympics, we went. The Olympics in 1980 were in February. We signed a 3-year contract with Ice Capades April 1st of 1980.
Wow.
That contract consisted of 9 months on the road out of the year. So we did that for 3.5 years, and then we just kept touring from 80 to 88. When I had a breakdown, basically, which has been documented. It was nonstop. It was go 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 go. TV, Caesar's Palace, Lake Tahoe, co-starring with Dorothy Hamill in theater shows. It was nonstop. So there was no downtime.
was there any drinking in that period?
Absolutely. The drinking started in Ice Capades with a simple glass of wine because I couldn't sleep.
Is there a drinking culture in Ice Capades? I mean, like.
Well, yeah, I wasn't the only one drinking, but I was the star of the show, so I was the one being watched like a hawk. And, fresh out of the Olympics and kind of America's sweetheart.
I've never seen Ice Capades. I only know the Woody Allen joke was that he didn't want to believe in reincarnation because he'd have to sit through Ice Capades again, which is a horrible joke.
It was really a learning experience for me, and I had a rough time because, like you said, everything before that, when you're an amateur, everything is done for you, and all you have to do is go out and compete. Now all of a sudden we're out on the road.
It's a show now, though, right? It's different,
and it's
right?
I don't want to say it's the circus, but it's a different city each week, different arena, and
I would think the competition, like for me, like in sports, it would be the idea of competing would be the fun part, as much as doing what you do. I mean, without the competition,
right?
It just seems kind of like I don't know.
Well,
recreational, sort of.
Well, right, yeah. But, I don't know how, it's a little nerve-wracking.
Right.
But we loved it. It's something both Randy and I loved since, when we met at 8 and 10 years old. And we weren't the type of skater that, we were talking about Tanya Harding in the is that the green room? What room is that?
It's the bread room, yeah.
It's
our version.
In that room over there. And she has a different chip. It was a win. With Randy and I, it was just go out and skate your best, and we just happened to win.
Right.
But we didn't have that. We didn't have that.
And if you just tuned in, sorry, you are listening to KLEAN Radio. That's Ty Babylonia. Give us a call. The number is 800-222-5222. That's 800-222-5222. Hashtag tonight is You Are Not Alone. You started drinking, I guess, during the Ice Capades.
Yes.
Just wine. And we hear this a lot,
Yeah, simple.
Just
glass of wine.
to go to sleep.
Yes.
And,
and I was a little bit lonely and kind of kept to myself and didn't know who to trust at that time because we were in the press a lot. I mean, Lake Placid, with something where it didn't happen.
Yeah.
We got huge press, and we touched a chord with with the world. So I
What
think
is
things
it about
happen for a
figure
reason.
skating, in your opinion? Like, I mean, it's fascinating to me that we sort of, it's almost like royalty, like this prince and princess, and so with pairs figure skating, there seems to be this very romanticized vision of the sport in our culture.
It is beautiful,
It is
and
beautiful, that's
it's
true.
you look at Dorothy Hamill and Peggy Fleming, and they are the queens of the ice.
Right.
So yeah, and I think because we make it look so easy, and
I got to tell you, I never watch it going, that looks easy. That looks like the hardest thing in
no, it is hard.
Yeah.
But we are taught, to make it
To
look.
make it look seamless.
Yes,
and,
yes, to
fluid.
make it look beautiful.
Okay, even when I watch it, I go, oh my God. And I think that's the thing of paired thing. It's like you're watching both of them going, they actually have to both. That's an amazing, tremendous thing.
Pair skating,
Yeah,
yes.
pair skating.
Yes.
What you guys do is like, whew.
Right.
So what happened? How did it get bad? What started
It just
happening?
escalated. I just think because it was so new to me, the professional life, and not having my parents there, and not knowing who to trust, and just the whole regimen, just threw me for a loop. And I went inwards, and wine was like the perfect, thing to make it all better. It was the perfect Band-Aid. But I took that one glass of wine, turned into a bottle of wine. And then the wine turned into a bottle of brandy or a bottle of Jack. I didn't know I had this addictive personality. That was new to me. I just thought I was just trying to make it better. I was just trying to get through those 3.5 years. And I used, the alcohol was part of that.
So that you had a goal, sort of? You had a rationalization that if you would just drink through these 3 years, then everything would be fine?
No, it was just what we did. Once again, I was not the only person drinking.
Right.
It was really just what we all did, like after a show. You go out to a bar or you go out to a restaurant and you have a drink and kind of wind it down.
Right.
It's very days of wine and roses in a sense, because you weren't, we have so many people and we have so many people that come now and you're sober that start when they're 12, 13. You were in your 20s
Early
at this
20s,
point,
yes.
early 20s at this
Yes.
point, and you were sort of a late bloomer, especially these days,
Right.
when everybody, Andrew, is getting drunk, and start using when they're 11 or 12. And we have a lot of callers sometimes that get confused, because I think a lot of people get confused these days because there is later stage alcoholism.
Yes.
There are some people that don't get it young. There are some people that get it as they progressively get older.
Right. And I was just, it felt very grown up to have a glass of wine, like the big kids in the show, like the other pros. I just, you just try to keep up.
How old were you when you were in those escapades?
20. I turned 21 on a bus on the way to Pittsburgh. Wow. That I do remember.
Wow.
So I was young and really mentally, probably like 17 upstairs.
Yeah.
So it was a
Do you
learning
think
experience.
Do you think skating developmentally arrested you? Like, because you were sort of like, you didn't really have a normal, I guess, adolescence, right? You were really working nonstop for a goal.
Right.
Right? You probably had tutors, right? You probably didn't go to school.
We
did
had
you?
tutors. I got through the middle of 8th grade,
Mm-hmm.
and then we were tutored because it was just, you need those hours to train on the ice and off the ice. And, we loved it. It was, we were addicted to it. And we just wanted to be the best.
Yeah.
And so,
But that's actually a question I was going to ask you, because we've spoken about this before. Do you think there's a certain addiction you have to be to becoming a great athlete?
Ooh.
Because
that's a good one.
every once in a while.
That, I've never thought of it that way. But I was obsessed.
Yeah.
And I knew at 7, 8 years old that skating was going to be.
Well, there can be positive addictions, right?
Yeah,
And then
and
once you don't have that anymore, what do? You fall in possibly to another one. We see that a lot with negative addictions. People will
Right.
become addicted to heroin, then they get off heroin, and then all of a sudden they become addicted to gambling. And then they, process addictions or other things where it's not necessarily chemical, but some repetitive behavior that gives them the feeling of the same thing they got from the heroin when it was working.
Right.
So, skating can be healthy. We had a guest on the show who he stays sober by playing golf 3 times a day. Now, is that completely healthy?
Okay.
I don't know, but it's probably better than him drinking himself to death.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
It's interesting.
And if you just tuned in, you are listening to KLEAN Radio. In studio tonight with us is Ty Babylonia. Give us a call. The number is 800-222-5222. That's 800-222-5222. An interesting story that came out. Excessive drinking causes 1 in 10 deaths among working age adults. 88,000 deaths annually, Andrew, from 2006 to 2010 included acute causes such as violence, alcohol poisoning, and car crashes, as well as a slew of health-related diseases. That's an amazing number, right? Because Ty, you're a drinker. I'm a drinker, and that's a lot of deaths annually, Andrew.
That is.
It is, and I think those numbers are an under, they're underestimates for a lot of different reasons. One of the main reasons is that people that smoke get taken out of that list.
Thank you.
So Judy, yes, you will be charted as a death from smoking statistic, not a death from alcohol.
It's progress.
Progress, not perfection.
Yeah. But I think that's a staggering number. To me, the staggering number is, we talk about so many things in this country. We talk about gun control. We talk about all these things when the basic things are still 88,000 people a year dying from alcoholism and other addictions that's not even included in this. That's a real national health crisis.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the sad things is that alcohol has become, and always has been, I guess, to some degree, the great national sedative. It's the thing, it's the depressant drug that's readily available, and it's not thought of as a drug. We still think of it as a beverage or, whatever. People don't really realize how strong.
Do you think that'll ever change?
I think it's starting to change. I mean, I think the fact that college students for so long thought it's normal to drink and throw up, and drink so much and then throw up and then feel like you're gonna die for a couple of days.
Oh, that's fun.
That was a good night out.
So
Yeah.
fun.
There aren't too many things that you would normally take or use with that consequence, and not think that maybe it might be a problem, or that it was dangerous. And I think that younger people are starting to realize that the consequences are more severe than we did in our older generations, where they didn't have drunk driving as a ticket; it was reckless driving. And then mothers against drunk driving actually really did change the way people thought about alcohol use and driving.
That's true.
So there's definitely a new awareness about this stuff. And now that marijuana's become legal, and we're starting to see some of the effects of marijuana be unveiled sort of to the public, and we can actually have conversations about it. The government can actually study it.
Right.
So it's going to be interesting to see what the real story behind the myth is,
Yeah.
and that's, I think we never really know the truth about everything that's going on, but there's an evolving truth that keeps coming out more and more over time. And I think we're
seems
definitely
like young
seeing that.
people. Sorry, they can't deal. They really want to tune out the world. They can't cope.
Yeah,
And
there's a lot of theories about that. I think the biggest thing is that we used to actually learn how to think, and now instead we learn how to process. Because there's so much information out there, you don't actually learn how to think for yourself and then come up with stuff or whatever. You're just learning how to take information that you get from somewhere and process it. It's almost like we've all become line workers for
It's interesting.
Yeah,
it's overwhelming.
And it's hard to find your own identity. You're not thinking about yourself. And so, you do your little process and then you medicate yourself to feel okay.
Right.
And there's not much space in between there.
I mean, there it's there's so much stuff going on. I mean, kids have so much these days going on. And one of the things you often hear about from drinkers or people that use drugs is, you want to take a break. And they're getting it from such an early age, whether it's Facebook, whether it's,
the pressure.
Yeah, there is. When we were kids, I don't remember this.
But also just the awareness of drugs.
Yeah.
I mean,
I didn't even know.
I mean,
know what?
When I was
I
12
knew that
years
there
old-
was like heroin. I knew that there was cocaine, but that happened in a ghetto somewhere, right?
Right.
Now it's everywhere, and you have the chemical equivalent of heroin in forms like oxycodone and other things in kitchen cabinet or the bathroom cabinet. I mean, there's just proliferation of medication.
They have no
is
hope.
readily available.
So in studio tonight is Ty Babylonia, U.S. skating champion, Olympian. So give us a call. The number is 800-222-5222. That's 800-222-5222. Our hashtag tonight is You Are Not Alone. My question to you is, how isolating did it feel, though? You know, you're in the ice capades. You're Ty Babylonia. You're like you said, you're America's sweetheart, and you know you're drinking, and you know your drinking might be getting a little askew. I think you did at that point.
Towards the not early on, not until like the late kind of mid 80s that I kind of thought about it, but thought I could handle it. I mean, I was drinking. It got to the point I was taking a little. You know, we had these dressing rooms in like at Harrah's Lake Tahoe and Caesar's Palace, and you know, Sammy Davis would be there the week before. There's a full bar. Those were the days of full bar in your dressing room, and I took advantage of that. And you know, thinking I could perform, you know, and be relaxed with a little shot of brandy. I went there. And I think because I was an Olympian, I could sort of keep it together physically. You know, just being a good athlete kind of got me through it. But in the end, it backfired, and it caught up with me. What
were some of the big consequences you started to notice? When did you actually realize that, like, other than sort of knowing that you were drinking a lot, what were some of the consequences that sort of...
I absolutely remember. In 1987, we were actually... I was living at the Chateau Marmont. I lived there for 2 months.
Wow.
Why? I have no idea.
Everybody that does that, by the way, says the same thing. I've heard 3 people say that. I was living at the Chateau for months, and I have no idea why. Okay, that is like the theme of the Chateau.
The Chateau, and they were so cool.
I just had lunch there, so I can't say too much. But
I mean, it's beautiful, but you know, everything was in storage. For some reason, I thought I needed to be there, and that was the hotel I picked because we were working at the Dorothy Chandler. Doing a show there in 87 and doing a couple of other shows. This was like Christmas time, and we had like 3 different, now it's really, I remember, 3 different versions of a program to Silent Night. You know, different versions of it.
Right.
I was lost. Dorothy Chandler, I was doing some other number, not even matching my partner, and that's when I knew, you know,
So that's 1987.
1987.
You got sober in 2009.
Well, I tried to get sober in 1980, after 1988, so 89. I tried.
Right.
Not 100%. I did it because someone said, you need to maybe go to some meetings and pull it together. And I couldn't. I didn't. So I was back to drinking.
And how bad were those years in between?
Bad. Drinking every day.
So you stopped? You weren't able to skate anymore?
Yeah.
Or?
No, I was skating. I was functioning.
Wow. That's the amazing thing, I guess, about
I
being
was able
functional
to.
alcoholics. I mean, there's a lot of them.
You know, but I can go back and YouTube. The camera doesn't lie. I know when I'm on.
You can see it.
And I know when I'm off.
Yeah.
And the audience knows when you're on, and they know when you're off. And there was a lot of off moments.
And if you just tuned in, that's Ty Babylonia. When we come back, we're actually going to be talking about something interesting. It's 8 tips for the newly sober, and I'd love to get everybody in the studio's opinion on that. Go to facebook.com/KLEAN Radio. We've been posting it. When we come back from the break, we're actually going to get into that more. And we're going to talk about a lot of different things, but that's one of the things I think is so important, Andrew, is we speak about this a lot, is tips for people when they're newly sober. It's one of the scariest things in the world. And you got some tips prepared?
Sure.
Why not?
Ty? Tips.
A tip? I can think of a tip.
When we come back,
I give out tips.
Yeah, when we come back from the break, we post it on our Facebook. We'd love to know your opinions on this. I have 8 helpful hints that people are going to need to listen to if they want to stay sober, stay strong. The discussion continues.
Are you or someone you care about addicted to drugs or alcohol? Addiction ruins lives and destroys families. Bring an end to the pain and suffering by calling KLEAN Treatment Centers. KLEAN has helped people from around the world break free by not only treating the addiction, but the underlying causes and providing vital aftercare so people can get clean and stay clean with no gimmicks and no false promises. If you need immediate assistance or just have questions, call KLEAN Treatment Centers for guidance. A much better life awaits.
Back to KLEAN Radio, and as always, we have a segment with Buddy Totten, KLEAN's own, And we posted tonight some 8 tips for the newly sober. And, buddy, what'd you get on Facebook?
Oh, we got a bunch of stuff. We got keep coming back no matter what. No major decision should be made in your first year clean. And this is really good. Erase all the old phone numbers that you don't want or need in your phone.
That's great.
And don't answer the number if it doesn't have a name.
That's
Which is something I had to do.
That's why we post this. This is great. And
Yeah.
you're right, because a lot of people, they have their phone. I see it all the time. And
Yeah.
what do I do with it? You know what? Chuck it.
Exactly.
Chuck it.
Chuck the phone.
Yep.
You know what? That might be the best. That's better than anything I actually
Yeah, the phone will
prepared
really
for the
get you
show.
into trouble every
so
time.
I love that. Get in touch with whoever did that and let's send them some swag.
Absolutely. we
Cool.
will.
Buddy
Got it.
Totten, thank you very much.
You're very
Thank you.
welcome.
I also posted something funny. We did post something funny, Ty. I'm always
What?
curious, why do bars have parking lots? And, we always want to cut down on drunk driving. What
Right.
better way to do it than actually take away parking lots at
Brilliant.
bars?
Totally.
That's brilliant.
And we had one.
That's a good one.
We had one.
Yeah.
We had one post and it said the parking lots are only for all the normal people that go to bars.
Yeah, because so many normal people go to bars.
Exactly.
That's Buddy Totten, and you're listening to Clean Radio. Buddy, thank you
That's
so
great.
much.
You're so welcome.
And I love that, Andrew. Somebody, so we posted about the tips and the hints for the newly sober. Somebody actually, one of their hints was throwing away your phone. Great advice. Just chucking out that phone, not even...
Yeah, even myself, I feel like I should never text after like 9 p.m.
Yeah, well, you know what? Can I tell you something? That's number 5 on my list.
Scary texting.
That's number 5 on my list. It's if it's after 11 o'clock at night and it sounds like a good idea, don't do it.
Don't do it.
That's one of my tips for the
good.
early summer. Because here's the thing, and most people think of the most horrific ideas at 2 in the morning.
Right.
Nobody says at 4 in the afternoon, let's go rob a bank. It doesn't come into your thinking. It's at 5 in the morning.
And you know this how?
I statute of limitations.
Oh my
But one of the most important things out there to people is get a checkup when you're newly sober. And this is really important because we have so many things on our brain. A lot of people think when they're newly sober, they think they're going to die. When I got sober, I had 18 cavities. It was the summer of dentistry.
That's a lot of cavities.
It was a lot of
18
cavities, and it was a lot of cavities. Literally the whole month. 2 months was spent in the doctor's
That's
office.
half your teeth.
It was a lot, yes.
Yeah.
It was. But here's the thing. I used to think, again, it's like with the mail. If I didn't open it, that it didn't come. And
The mail is the one that cracks me up the most because I see with everybody, you go into their house and it's like, okay, where's your mail? And they're like, in that drawer.
That's actually number 2 on my list.
And you open that drawer and there's everything unopened.
That's
right?
actually
It
number
just
2 on
doesn't
my
exist.
list. It's
Yeah.
time to open the mail.
It's time to start opening the mail. That's the hardest for some people.
Yeah.
Well,
Because
because
there's so many consequences in the mail that people
Yes.
just...
it's terrifying. Yeah.
It's terrifying.
It's overwhelming.
Taxes
Yeah.
and...
And just like the IRS decides they could lose emails, they don't lose it on you.
No.
So open that mail and get to business.
And
if you
deal
just
with it.
And deal with it. And if you just tuned in, you are listening to Clean Radio. So give us a call. The number is 800-222-5222. That's 800-222-5222. Let's get a Ron in Laguna Beach. Welcome to Clean Radio, Ron.
Hi, how you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I just happened to be on the road and stopped and listened to you talking about athletes. I was a college athlete myself. First of all, I'm 26 years sober in the program.
That's amazing.
Congratulations.
End of this month will be 27. But
Great.
I've dealt with. I'm a retired dentist, and I've dealt with a bunch of professional football players. My brother-in-law played with the Jets and the Vikings, and through him I met a lot of other guys. And I also am a big with Stanford Athletics, and I know from dealing with Division I athletes and professional athletes, you have to believe you're the best in the world, or else you just don't even bother to put on your uniform. And it gives you, you have to have that ego sense, but then once your career is over, for so many people, they are the sport they play, and when a sport is removed, they've got nothing to do, and that's when the drugs and the alcohol get worse and worse in the people I know.
Well, why don't we let Ty respond to that? Because I'd love to hear if you felt that way.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I was saying
So you're asking me when I didn't have skating?
When the skating was over.
When the skating was over, it was my decision, and I had decided this was '88, and this is when it all came to a head. I had said I was going to quit because of, and I'm not blaming anyone. I'm not blaming the manager or the agents or the whoever, but we were working nonstop.
Yeah.
I was overworked and wasn't able to say no to anything. You know, I have a partner, Randy, who, you know, was just flourishing in being a professional skater, and we were saying yes to everything. So I just said, this has got to stop, or you're going to lose me. And I said, I'm going to quit. So when I said I was going to quit, that's when the drinking just was out of whack.
I mean, it's hard
I
to
got
take.
scared.
It's really hard
I
to
got
take
scared.
care of yourself when you're good at something. I mean, I'm dealing with this a little bit with work.
Right.
You know, like for me, work is so important, and the opportunities that I'm given are so great that to say, oh, you know what, I'm actually going to spend an hour a day taking care of myself seems like the last thing I want to do. Because
Yes.
the rewards from the work are so enormous.
Right.
that-
Yeah, there was a lot of money
Or I
involved.
feel so much responsibility to get something done because, you know, people have put their trust in me.
Right.
So that takes first priority, and it's eventually it catches up with you. You know, you start getting sick all the time and whatever.
So here's a question to Ron. We have Ron on Laguna Beach calling, and so you were an athlete. You were a college athlete. What was life? Did you? When I asked this to Randy, I asked this to Ty. Was did an addiction help you become that college athlete?
Well, certainly I was, you go to practice, you work at it 4 or 5 hours a day, and you're supposed to maintain a decent level of academic achievement. And so, usually one thing or another has to suffer. But it certainly, I wouldn't give up my athletics event experiences for everything in the world, just like I wouldn't.
You know what, Ron? What's interesting to me, the same story is what we hear from veterans. You know, that they would never have given up the opportunity to serve our country. And yet we spend millions and millions of jobs training people to go into the military and billions of dollars to operate the equipment they do. But then as soon as they come out, we spend very little money teaching them how to do something different.
And Ron, by the way, thank you for the call.
Back into society. And I think, that's the same with college athletics. We're starting to see with the NCAA, where these students are exploited. Their names are used for video games. They don't make any money. The university makes millions and millions of dollars off them. But they claim that the education that they give them is the reward. But the reality is that the education they give these students is not the equivalent.
Right.
It's almost like they should play football, and then if they go to the pros, that's great. And then they should go back and do college afterwards.
Yeah, there's no handbook to teach you how to be a professional. It's, for us, it was just trial by whatever, and I made huge mistakes.
That's my question. That's my question, because actually number 3 on my list is wait a while till you make amends. To the new, to people that are new and that are.
Explain what that means for people out there.
And for
because a lot of
people that
don't know what that
it's
means.
what Ty's talking about. We make a lot of mistakes, and
Yes.
we have a lot of regrets. And when you're newly
Absolutely.
sober, we've done a lot of damage. And sometimes we have to make amends. We have to say I'm sorry. But right away to do it after all the mess we've made might not be the best time. It's good for people to see us staying sober.
Right.
And
Right.
that's the real amends. And then we could go to them and say, I messed up. But when you have a day sober, people are going to be like, I don't know, it's how real that is.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, even if it's real for you, it doesn't feel real for the other
Let it
people.
simmer. As Michael Jackson,
Yeah.
he said, let it simmer. Let it,
Yeah, we're quoting Michael Jackson. I like that. And also
let
the
it simmer.
hashtag tonight is You Are Not Alone. Great Michael Jackson
hey.
song. Yeah.
Hey.
There we go. And if you
Michael.
and if you just tuned in, you are listening to KLEAN Radio. Give us a call. The number is 800-222-5222. That's 800-222-5222. In the room tonight with us, we have an Olympian and, national skating championship 5 times and all that, but an Olympian and all that.
And all that jazz.
It's like, yeah. So let's go to Susan in Glendale. Welcome to KLEAN Radio, Susan.
Hi. I just wanted to say, I have 19 years sober. I was also in the ice capades, and I started drinking in the ice capades, but I also skated in a show with Ty at Caesar's Palace. It was a Christmas show.
I remember that.
I was shocked. I saw that movie they made about you,
Yes.
and you I guess at that time you were having problems, but I wouldn't have known it, and I was really surprised
Yeah.
That movie, I mean, I don't know how realistic it was. But
It was pretty, It was, after all the problems, it started out with a cover of People magazine, and I
And the movie was called On Thin
On
Ice.
Thin Ice,
yeah.
and it was me just kind of trying to clean my slate, and it threw the skating community for a loop. A lot of people hated to see the dark side of
Of America's Princess.
exactly, but I was just trying to be as honest as I could, and and I did it for me. I didn't do it for anyone else. I did it for me. But as Susan said, I was able to hide a lot of the the darkness.
Yeah, you were very quiet and nice, and so was Randy. And the other thing I want to say was I also started drinking in the ice capades, but I mean, you're a totally different level. I was in the court of ballet, but
Right.
what I'm saying
Okay,
is
to
like,
us, Susan, just so you know, to us non-skaters, that's amazing too.
And they are amazing.
You could tell me you skated to the ring. The ring. I even said at the ring. If you skated to the rink, I'd be like, impressive.
No, they are. The ice capettes and the cadets are phenomenal
Yeah.
skaters.
So
But
Susan,
I was just saying that, do you think, I have looked back on it because that's when I started skating, but I think also because of the age, I think that there was other issues that even if you weren't, I'm asking you, if you
Yeah.
weren't in the show, would you have the same, or a skater, do you think you'd still have the issues? Because I think for me it would have been the same.
Absolutely the same. It was,
It's not just the ice capades that make
No,
you start
and it
drinking.
wasn't, and it
Yeah, we're not
wasn't a
banging
lot
the
of
ice
people.
capades as much as we are.
No. Thank God for ice capades. I just had a rough time.
Yeah.
And, I owned it. I wasn't perfect. And my skating wasn't, what they saw as an amateur. And a lot of people also say that they think their version is the problem started when Randy and I had to withdraw in Lake Placid, that was the start of the downslide for me. And I disagree with that. It was just...
I don't even know the story, but I disagree with them too. If you
Ah.
disagree, I disagree.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, and it's isolating. It's an both of you are talking about this. You're in the sport. We had Ron calling from Laguna, who's an athlete too.
Right.
There's a certain isolation when you're in that big of a limelight that you can't share. Who are you going to pull over to the side and say, "Hey, I'm struggling." And they're like, well, we really don't care. Get back on the skates.
Right.
Absolutely.
There is no time to get
It's
better.
showtime.
There is no time to get better.
Skating's an obsession in itself. I mean, people that skate love it. Do you know what I'm
Yes.
saying? You love it.
Oh,
so
yeah.
It's kind of an
Completely
obsession,
obsessed.
But it's a different kind of obsession than the
Right.
drinking. But a lot of people, when I was in the show, a lot of people were doing drugs too, and I
Right.
didn't even know it. And
Yeah.
I was also in there in the 80s.
So Susan,
I
you're
was-
sober now?
Oh, yeah.
What's the drug
Many
of
years.
choice?
But I
What's the
have a
drug
lot
of
of
choice for a figure skater?
Speed back
Well,
then.
Speed. Well,
Cocaine.
I
Weight.
was drinking. I didn't try
your weight
cocaine.
issues, right?
No, what? Sorry, Susan. What?
Sorry.
Oh, well, drinking in the show, yeah, you go out, you party. I mean, that's where it starts, but that's not. I went to do another show, and the loneliness thing that you mentioned, that was big for me, but some people just have trouble with that on the road. I don't know, but...
Susan, and how long are you sober now?
I have 19 years.
That's amazing.
Yay, Susan. Congrats,
But
sweetie.
I mean, like, the problems that you have, I think, are the same problems whether you're skating or not. For me, skating was an obsession, too,
Yeah.
so... But a good obsession. I don't know. I don't know if I'm...
No, you're making...
I also heard Dorothy Hamill had a lot of problems in the show, too.
We all did. And none
Let's
of us...
blame the ice capades.
None of us
It's
were
all the ice
perfect,
capades.
and it's just, it was, I look back at it now, and it was the greatest learning experience. It was almost like my 3 years of high school were my capades years.
Right.
And after that, I would, it's like I got the hang of performing
was there a
every
sense
night.
of relief though, because you go from high pressure professional or amateur,
Skating, yeah.
competition skating,
Right.
to performing?
It's completely different. When you're performing, it's every night.
right?
When you're an amateur, it's 3 times. Well, back then it was 3 times a year.
Right,
That
yeah.
you had to peak, and so it was culture shock for me, and I could not get it. Each year got harder and harder, and I was overweight, and it's like, am I going to get through this? And I got through it. Somehow I got through it, and
I really find that the common thread in most of our guests with this issue is loneliness. Loneliness seems to be something, and I think a lot of that comes from drinking. I mean, a lot
drinking,
of drinking, you isolate.
And Susan, thanks for the call.
thank you, Susan.
And you're right about that. There is something so isolating and so lonely about the drinker. about
and not knowing who to trust.
Yeah, it's
I didn't know who to trust. I didn't know who my real friends were, or
because you got to remember
for people that are using it for money.
And I'm going to speak
I'm
going to speak of drinkers because people can't understand sometimes. It's like they can't understand when we say we drank and they go and nothing else. And for and I'm like and here's the thing, and I always would say this, alcohol had quality control. Right? You knew exactly what you were getting every time you opened up that bottle. You knew the proof. You knew where it was made. And for people like us, for lonely people, for people that needed to know exactly what they were getting, alcohol was the medicine we needed.
Oh, it was perfect.
And drugs were terrifying.
Right.
Drugs, because they might not be good.
Well, I think that's where we've seen a cultural shift now that more drugs have entered into the system. And that's why I think we're seeing a huge amount of heroin overdoses, is that a lot of people that were using opiates out there have been using regulated doses through prescription meds. And now that the government's cut that off largely by putting in all these different plans that trace prescriptions, and it's much harder to get the pills now. People have desperately gone to heroin because they're addicted to these other opiates. And that we see people that just don't know how to use these drugs and not overdose, and they're using them in isolation. Heroin back in the 70s, people would use it as a group. There was a group of people that you generally hang out with, and if you overdose, they would revive you or whatever, take you to the hospital, or at least call you a cab or something, right? But, nowadays people are using heroin on their own, which is a new cultural phenomena of how we use drugs. And it's always been an issue with drugs and cultures that the way that a drug is used in a culture affects how the culture generally produces less or more addicts. So, for example, France for a long time didn't have nearly the problem with alcoholism it does even now, because it was more integrated into the family culture. But as family culture has changed in France, they're now experiencing for the first time large amounts of alcoholism.
Really?
Yeah, because the socialization of children being taught how to drink responsibly and just at meals has disappeared largely because the family units have broken apart.
Right.
And so you have people that are more into binge drinking and partying and watching American movies and, seeing how people use alcohol in America. So you have this whole different view.
That's interesting.
Right. And it's the same thing for every kind of drug. Most drugs that are integrated into like religious ceremonies like peyote, stuff like that, is not the same way that, the way Native Americans use peyote is not the same ways that fraternities use peyote.
Right.
Right. So,
they're just,
And if you just tuned in, you are listening to KLEAN Radio. So give us a call. The number is 888-601-6040. That's 888-601-6040. We're in the studio tonight with Ty Babylonia, Olympian and all-around amazing woman. And you have so much. But I wanted to get to the rest of the list. So here we go, Andrew. And I think a lot of times people forget this. And this was so important. I got sober in New York, and they used to say to me, if you didn't take a drink today, and if you didn't take a drug today, you're a miracle. And when people are getting newly sober, they want to catch up on everything they missed. And sometimes, no matter what happened that day, you could have had the worst day, you could have had the best day. If you didn't do those two things, it was the greatest day for an alcoholic or a drug addict.
Right.
And that's
great.
Also, number 6, be kind to yourself. And we beat each other.
I'm doing that now.
We beat ourselves up so much when we get sober. It's so important to remember to be kind to yourself. Number 7, be accountable. If you say you're going to be there.
Yep.
I just want to interject real quick there, because a lot of people make the mistake of trying to take all this on like right when they get sober, and that's why I think a lot of people relapse. So, like if the mail, for example, right? You open the mail and it's IRS and every bill and whatever. If you like get sober and day 2, you decide to open all your mail, you're going to drink that day.
Don't open your mail on day 2.
Right? Do not open your mail.
You'll drink your mail first, and then
It's really funny though, because it's what you said about taking that hour a day. My friend Big Judah said that to me. He calls me up one time, and I'm newly sober, and he goes, let's go do something, and I go, I got to do this. He goes, the world without you for 22 years.
My big thing is like set priorities. Open your mail. Maybe that's the first thing you do, and then maybe that takes a few days.
Or open it with somebody. Open it with somebody.
Or just throw everything dated before like a month ago out.
If it's dated before,
manageable.
If it's before the ice
big thing that I
80s,
found that made a huge change and has made a huge change for a lot of people is pick the top 3 things that you don't want to do once you've got it organized, and do those 3 things at the beginning of the day. So right from the beginning of the day, you have a sense of accomplishment, and then those 3 things that are the thing that have been bothering you the most won't bother you all day. So you won't be just ruminating and thinking over those top 3 things.
That's good.
You'll have a sense of accomplishment. You might find you can do more than 3 things in one day, but even if you just do those 3 things, that's a huge achievement.
And if you don't beat yourself up.
Yeah, and eventually you're going to get through these things. Yeah. And, I mean, I know people that are now 7, 8 years sober that, come to me and they're like, I promised you that I'd start working on my taxes, 8 years ago. And I just want to tell you that I finally dealt with it. And I'm like, great.
Yay.
They've been sober for 8 years and they finally dealt with their taxes, but it took them 8 years to get to the point where they could handle it.
Yeah. But they did it.
But eventually they got to it, and they would never have dealt with it.
That's actually great. That's actually great advice. Is setting these short little lists.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that
keep
are
it short.
attainable.
There's no more.
Yeah.
Nobody can really handle the stress of more than 3 things at a time.
And I think that's so important for people to
Beyond
hear.
that, you're in a crisis.
It's so important though for people to hear though when they're newly sober, and it's important for the loved ones of the family members. This takes time. This recovery takes time.
Yeah.
And it's not always a perfectly straight road. It can be a roller coaster.
It's a huge roller coaster.
Hello.
And but here's the thing, like you said, baby goals, baby steps.
Baby steps.
And it takes time. And the last one I wrote is it's not easy. Staying sober, living life for the alcohol for everybody these days.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
I think there's this myth of happiness and easiness. I mean, the Constitution says the right to happiness. It doesn't. It's to pursue happiness. It doesn't say the right to have happiness. And but most people in American culture believe that they have a right to happiness, not the pursuit of happiness, and it's a huge difference. And people, like I've said before, whether you have lots of money or no money, whether you have a big family or no family, all the feelings are the same. Anger feels the same for everybody. Sadness and depression feels the same. So just because people have certain things in their life doesn't mean that they're not affected by the human condition the same way. And so, we have to make ourselves aware that just because somebody on the outside might look okay or be a famous skater or, be a race car driver or, be a famous rock musician, that doesn't mean that they're not suffering the same way maybe a housewife in Orange County is over her drinking and depression that her kids don't talk to her.
I know what TV shows you're watching now. Real Housewives of Orange County.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
You know what I love about it, my sobriety?
Yes.
This 5 years and 8 months, the honesty. Just and being honest with everyone around me and most of all myself. And I am so proud of myself for that because there was a lot of lying and a lot of hiding and just, ducking and weaving and that's all over now.
It takes a lot of work.
And it does take a lot of work, and it just feels so great each day. It's like I can look myself in the mirror.
Who'd you reach out to this time? Did you call the 12-step group? Did you reach out to a friend?
Well, I left town. I left home.
Okay.
Not to get sober, but I just happened to get sober in Ashland, Oregon, and I stayed there for four years, and it was scary to come back here, but I had to work. I have to work. But
I have a long history in Ashland.
What happened?
I don't know either.
It's the town of the
no.
It's the town of the Shakespeare Festival, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Andrew, can I tell you something? Only you would know that. You have been to some of the most bizarre. Like, where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? Where in the world have you been?
When I was in 8th grade, I took. Was it 9th grade? I think it might have been 8th grade, 9th grade, whatever. It doesn't really matter. My English class went on a field trip. I was living in Davis, California on sabbatical for my dad from Cornell and at UCD, and we went to the Shakespeare Festival, and I lost a certain amount of something that on that trip in a tent.
Okay, Andrew Spantrick and KLEAN Radio. We have learned a lot tonight.
Ashland, Oregon.
You're going to have to come back on this radio show.
Is it over?
No, not yet.
Oh,
but I've learned more about Andrew tonight than I have Ty Babylonia. Ty, so what's going on today? What do you got cooking? I know you have a chocolate company.
I have a line of designer chocolates called Ty Treats.
That's a good name.
Go to tytreats.com.
I want you to tell people why you did this because it's a really cool story of why chocolates.
Why chocolates? Yeah. Well, what's funny is, first of all, I'm not a big sugar person. If I'm going to go for the junk food, it's the salty popcorn or potato chips. But it happened, very simply. I did a radio show in North Hollywood, and the host was Frank Sheftel, who his family owns probably the largest candy shop in North Hollywood, in the Valley. And as a gift for doing the show, he gave me a piece of chocolate in the shape of a skate, a figure skate, which was very nice. And I kept staring at it, thinking, there's something here. And he could tell I was, the mind was, wheels were turning. And he just flat out said, would you like to do a line of designer chocolates? And I'm at that point in my career where it's like, why not? Why not try something new? And it's about a year old, and it's a hit. And you can see it's TyTreats.com, and we have a page on Facebook. And
which one is the best chocolate in the box?
Are there any white? I like
there's
white chocolate. I
there's
love white chocolate.
There's dark chocolate, strawberry chocolate, milk chocolate. There's
chocolate is a drug, you know that.
Can you see the moon? Can you guys see my crescent moon?
Yes.
Do you know the story of this moon? Do we have time?
Yes, we have. Yeah.
We have a minute. This was given to me by Stevie Nicks in the summer.
Really?
What?
It's not
That's
a
really
spoon?
cool.
Where's the spoon?
No, but that's
Right? Well, studio for
that's an
Stevie Nicks.
amazing.
Come on.
I know.
No, that's an
Too
amazing
easy.
thing. It's like it's Stevie Nicks.
Stevie Nicks
Yeah.
in the summer. This was before the Olympics in Lake Placid. In
Yeah.
the summer of '79, she was a skating fan and just loves dance and
Yeah, it's amazing.
twirling and Stevie. So anyway, this in honor of Stevie, we do in the Ty Treats line a gold dusted dark chocolate moon. And it's delicious, and that's probably the best seller. So that's my Steve. I mean, there's more to the story. She wrote the foreword for a book that Randy and I wrote.
And where do we get this again?
What,
What's
Ty
the-
Treats?
yeah.
TyTreats.com. And it's on Facebook. We have a page on Facebook.
And that's TAI
TAI Treats.
And I'm gonna have to get some because I'm one of those
It's
few.
really delicious.
I'm one of those few. It doesn't go right away, and I do like chocolate every once in a while. So Andrew and I are actually gonna go on Ty Treats and order some chocolate.
Yes.
I have no objection to that.
I have none.
It's
Somebody
yummy.
behind you might, by the way, but I know you have no objections.
She's in front
to
of
that.
me.
It's great. It's
Hi,
great.
Lydia.
Oh, she's right there. And you know what? And what else? So you have the Ken
And
Boxer and a talk show with Ken Boxer.
Ken Boxer Live in Santa Barbara. In
Yeah.
fact, I leave tomorrow. I love Santa Barbara, Montecito.
I love
and
Santa Barbara too. Great fish and chips on the pier.
Oh my gosh! Just even the drive there, I can
pretty
feel
beautiful.
the weight. Because it gets tense.
And they have a dog-friendly hotel out there too, which is really cool for people
Which
out
one?
there that have dogs. I don't
Oh, the
remember
door
the name.
stay. The door stay. No, that's somewhere else. But anyway, so Ken Boxer Live. Tomorrow, our guest is Patrick Cassidy,
Oh, very cool.
son of Shirley Jones. And I'm a co-host, and I absolutely love it. So Ken Boxer Live.
And also go to Facebook.com. Go to Ty Babylonia's
Yes.
page. It's a great page. I actually followed. I love what you post.
Oh,
We're out of
thank
time,
you.
guys.
And so
Oh,
I want to thank everybody out there. Ty's going to come back in. We need an Olympian. We need more than 1
Yay,
hour
I
with an
wanna come
Olympian.
back.
Absolutely.
And I want to thank
Thank you.
everybody out there that makes this show possible. I want to thank all our fans. I want to thank Brian Camber, Buddy Totten, the guys behind the board.
And Mom, I hope I didn't embarrass you.
I want to thank Rand DeWitt, Patrick Kennedy. I want to thank, of course, our guest tonight, Ty Babylonia, Monique Moss. I want to thank everybody out there that makes this show possible. Don't stop posting. Don't stop believing. I want to get better. The discussion continues at KLEANRadio.com.
Thanks, Judah.
Are you or someone you care about addicted to drugs or alcohol? Addiction ruins lives and destroys families. Bring an end to the pain and suffering by calling KLEAN Treatment Centers. KLEAN has helped people from around the world break free by not only treating the addiction, but the underlying causes and providing vital aftercare so people can get clean and stay clean with no gimmicks and no false promises. If you need immediate assistance or just have questions, call KLEAN Treatment Centers for guidance. A much better life awaits